This is Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
Look, setting the pace with Alex and Facci. Alex and Facci, Alex and Alex. If I put our jacks in the paint, how you gonna stop me? How you gonna stop me? We can go head to head. Call out your top three, call out your top three. Look at the swish from Duarte. Now that boy got three. We got Halliburton running point. This is the Benedict for the shot. If anybody gon' come in the post, then we got Jalen Smith for the block. Setting the pace, going to the top. Setting the pace, going to the top. This is your #1 podcast. Sweeping every team, we gon' need a mop. Smooth.
All right, everybody, we now welcome on 6'8", forward out of Louisville, an absolute bucket getter. He's none other than Jordan Nwora. Jordan, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, we've been excited about this one. So have our listeners. So appreciate you coming on. But, Jordan, look, let's just start from the Pacers front office. They've made it known on numerous occasions that they've been interested in you for a while, dating back to the 2020 draft, even over the last few years. What was some of maybe your earliest interactions with the Pacers like?
Obviously my draft was during COVID. I had a couple conversations with them during, that draft process, but really, it picked up for me in Indiana, really not this past season, but the season before during that trade deadline. I had heard just through talking to my agents that it's a possibility that I could have ended up in Indy. And then obviously the following, after the end of that season, I was a restricted free agent, and I really thought there was a big chance I ended up in Indy, talking to my agents almost every day. Obviously, I was one of those guys that signed really late, and it was really just kind of figuring out what was going to happen. I thought there was a point in time I thought I was going to be in Indiana more than going back to Milwaukee. So obviously that's not what happened, but, I'm here now and happy to be here.
Meant to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm curious because that's the first I'd heard of that there was previous interest besides just the last free agency. So talk to me about what the Pacers told you they loved about your game in terms of targeting you as someone they could go after via the trade or via free agency.
I think for them it was just obviously, my size, being able to really shoot, space the floor, playing with a guy like Tyrese and, obviously Ben, spacing the floor for guys like that. Is important, and just rebounding. I think that's something that is kind of underrated for me, but I think it's something I've done well in college and even carrying over to the NBA. And the time I did get in Milwaukee, I thought I rebounded pretty well. Obviously, it wasn't a ton of time, but I was able to do it when I played, and I think I did an all right job rebounding the last couple of games of the season when I was in Indy. So. That's something they liked. And then I think when I got here, they saw a little more of my game that I wasn't able to show in Milwaukee. And, they've been, happy so far. So,
man, the Pacers have been looking for a wing like you for quite some time. So we talked about that opportunity in Milwaukee. Look, you learned a lot over there. You won a championship over there. But can you talk to us about getting traded? Because something it's fans, we're never going to fully understand that. But when you become a Pacer, there's a much bigger opportunity waiting for you.
Yeah. So my getting traded obviously was my first time that's happened to me in my career. I kind of had a feeling something was going to happen in talks leading up to the trade deadline with my agent. And, I felt like it was kind of time for both sides. It was my third year, still not, playing much. Obviously, I was still surrounded by, great players, all-stars, Giannis, and an MVP. And it was wild because we were on an LA trip. So it was like our West Coast trip. We had about a week and a half on the road. So that didn't make it any easier. But me being me, I packed a little extra just knowing, something might happen. And literally the day of the trade deadline, I just wake up in the morning and I have a couple calls. I see a couple tweets, and I'm like, a bunch of my friends, like I said, obviously I have a lot of friends from this area, Louisville, and I just see everybody's like super excited, like, man, like you're gonna be in Indy, and obviously I was super, excited too for the opportunity. So at the end of the day, I was grateful for my experience in Milwaukee. Like you said, won a championship, I was around a bunch of great guys, people who helped me, grow my game, a lot of great vets. But now it's in Indy, a whole nother opportunity getting to play, being with guys more so my age now as opposed to guys 8 years older than me in Milwaukee about the whole team. So, it's been great, and I can't wait to, be here and grow with these guys and, hopefully be a part of this team, taking that next step.
All right, so let's talk about your time in Milwaukee versus your time in Indiana. I'm curious, what maybe offensively, in terms of the offensive sets that you guys run, what's the biggest difference between where you were previously at with Milwaukee to the sets the Pacers run now?
I think in Milwaukee it was more so, obviously you're playing with Giannis, Chris, and Drew. My job really was run to the corners. I felt like sometimes I was just running back and forth from the corners. And just kind of spacing the floor for them. But, at times, when you have players like that who are, like I said, MVPs, all-stars, they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Obviously, Tyrese is an all-star too, but his specialty, I guess you say, is passing. So he's making everybody else look good. Whereas in Milwaukee, Chris is scoring, Giannis is scoring, Drew's scoring. You have three guys averaging however many points, the rest of it just really comes from spacing the floor, shooting threes. And I think that's when I got to Indy, they were surprised I could do a lot more. But that just comes with having the opportunity to do so. And Rick putting me in those positions. Even throughout the season, the last 24 games or so, Rick started putting me in some pick and rolls just because it's not something I had seen a lot when I was in Milwaukee. But, being able to do it in Indiana, like I said, just having the opportunity to do stuff. I feel like I'm somebody who on offense can do a lot of things. Now I'm getting the chance to show that.
Can you speak maybe from like a confidence standpoint, how huge it was for you to be able to get that bigger opportunity, but be able to get in a groove? Because after your first couple of games, I mean, out of the 24 games, the 19 of the final 21, you scored in double figures. So what was that like just for the confidence?
I think honestly it came from all my coaches and teammates. Really, they gave me a boost coming here. They told me it's different from being in Milwaukee. Everybody's going to be involved. A lot more touches, like I said. A guy like Rick, after a couple of games, having the faith to draw up a play for me in games, like that's the first time that I've had that happen. Like literally a play is for me since I've been in the league, at least.
That's cool.
And that's something for me. If I feel like you're putting trust in me, I'm gonna put trust back in you. You know what I'm saying? So that's a big step, especially coming from a coach like Rick, Hall of Fame guy. So, it was great. All the time, they take in practice. I mean, you've seen the clip the other day, even in pre-draft stuff, Rick is helping people out and workouts and stuff like that. I'm not sure many coaches are doing that, at this level, at least head coaches. So, it's really cool to see, and I want to, give my all to a guy like that, knowing that he's, really trying to help me become a better player. So it's been good.
Everybody knows that you are a bucket getter. You can put the ball in the hole, but I think people kind of sleep on your defense a little bit. We saw you get tasked early when you got brought here, guarding some tougher players. I think there was one game maybe you were guarding Luka a little bit against the Mavericks. So talk to us about your defense and maybe why that's a little bit of an underrated part of your game.
Yeah, obviously, in Milwaukee, I was never tasked with, guarding anybody of that level. Obviously, we had Drew Holiday, one of the best, defenders in the league, and Brooke. So, coming into Indy, I kind of told, I think I forget who our first game was. I think it was a game against Utah, one of the earlier games when I first got traded. And I think I pressured Lauri Markkanen into a turnover. TJ got it and scored. But Rick came and grabbed me the next day, and he was like, you kind of are telling on yourself a little, like you can play some defense. And I told him I can do it if I get the opportunity. Like I never got the chance to guard guys, and kind of you get that label of not being able to defend. I'm not saying I'm the world's best defender, but I think that with time and getting those opportunities is something that I can grow and learn to do. And especially with this off season, I think a big part of it is conditioning, getting my body and getting in great shape. And at that point, obviously I'm somebody who's known as being more of an offensive player, but I think with getting my body right, getting in great shape, I can, be somebody who's more of a two-way player and, really help on that end of the floor.
Talking about getting in the best shape. I mean, look, it is a contract year for you, and we don't need to get into those specifics, but being able to play with a guy that you mentioned earlier, Tyrese Halliburton, how excited are for you to go into this offseason knowing you have a bigger role with an all-star point guard, knowing what you maybe have to work on now that you have had more minutes and everything like that? How excited are you for this upcoming season?
I'm super excited. Like I said, I feel like, Indy and me being here now is like we're right on the cusp of really making that next step. I'm super excited to have the chance, and not only Ty, but TJ, Drew, they're all past first guards. So playing with them, not only for myself, they all make everybody 10 times better. They really know how to play the game, see the floor. So I'm super excited for what the future holds.
All right, so talk to me a little bit about when you got traded here, going to a new team, not knowing these guys maybe as well as you might know them a little bit from playing against them at different stages of life. But was there somebody on this team that you were kind of surprised at how talented they were, or just like a moment at practice that stood out to you where you're like, okay, man, like I didn't know they had that in them?
I'm not sure. I think as a collective unit, what surprised me most when I got to Indy was just really how fast they played, all around. I mean, I knew obviously playing them. I knew like Buddy's a great shooter. Ty can really pass. Miles is a great center. I know like their games, but what surprised me the most is being in Milwaukee. I remember them playing fast, actually being in it and like playing with them. I remember practices like. I'm like, man, because in Milwaukee, we didn't practice like that. We practiced super short. It was more like scripting. You know what I'm saying? Guys are old. They got to get back to their families. They got kids at home.
Yeah.
You get to Indy, practices are long. We're running sprints. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Even it was me and George. Even George was looking at me like, I'm like, yeah, bro, this is a lot different from what we're used to. And so I think it's not like one person surprised me. I think it's just, like I said, everybody's in great shape. To be able to play that fast on a nightly basis or every other day is crazy. And like I said, it's another reason I had to get in great shape this offseason.
I mean, you talked about how everyone's closer in age to you. This was a young Pacers team. Average age was close to 23 years old. Obviously, you come over with George Hill. So it's nice to have someone that you're familiar with. But who have you been who'd you gravitate towards on the team, and how's that communication been going into the offseason, knowing, hey, look, these are guys that, I want to be working out with this summer, and is there anyone in particular that you have been working out with on the team?
It's crazy because, like I said, with us being all so close in age, we're all, pretty close, all have kind of the same, I guess you could say, mindsets. I think in terms of guys I've kind of hung out with a lot, since I've been here. I've talked to Drew a lot. I've known Drew since high school, and we both before he went to his prep school, because he went to a high school called Vaughn, and when I was still in Buffalo, I played his high school, like before we were even on any kind of map, really.
Nice.
And then I've kind of gotten close with Aaron Neesmith. That's my guy. We've hung out a lot, played a video game all the time. Ben's been great, getting to know him, going and getting food a couple of times. And then obviously Ty, talking to Ty, kind of being like the leader of the team. He's been a great dude. Texting me here and there. He texted me the other day about a clip when he scored on me when I was in Milwaukee, just, poking at me. But
I love that. I got to say that.
Yeah, but it's everybody's close, man. I'm cool with everybody on the team. And like I said, it's easy to get along with, guys we're the same age, you can relate to each other, stuff like that. So
following up on that real quick, because you mentioned Tyrese Halliburton, you mentioned Aaron Neesmith, also Jalen Smith. You're all from the 2020 draft. Did you guys ever have any interactions back then? Maybe it was like workouts. I know it was during COVID, or anything back then that you might have kind of ran into each other.
For me, nah, because obviously I was a later draft pick, and all those guys were all lottery picks. I was picked a little later, and COVID was so weird, man. There was nothing really. I think even for them, they probably didn't talk to each other during the draft, just because everything was so locked down. When we had workouts, like teams were coming to, teams were allowed to do 10 workouts, but they had to come to your city. Like I had a couple teams fly to Buffalo. Milwaukee was obviously one of them, and watch me work out at like my local gym. Like I had my trainer work me out. So it was a different time. I didn't really talk to a lot of those guys. And it's crazy because now that I think about it, I didn't play when I was at Louisville that year. I didn't play any of them in college either. So yeah.
That's interesting. Now, you got traded with George Hill, obviously, a guy that is very familiar around here. Played for the Pacers for a while, especially on the deep runs that they had in the early 2010s. And I'm just curious, how cool is it to kind of see him be able to get that moment to come back home? And did he show you anything when he got back here? Obviously, you guys were teammates, so I'm sure that you guys bonded quite a bit during that trade.
Yeah, me and George, that's my guy. We literally, talked and hung out most of the time while we were here. He took me around a bunch of places. I'll never forget, like the first week we're here, I went with him a bunch of places. Literally went to a drive-through food spot, and he's ordering, and literally the lady stops, goes back, and like they all come to the door. It's like George Hill, George Hill. I'm like, man, the city like really loves you like this. Like it's crazy. I've been out with him a bunch of places. Like everybody knows George Hill out here. Obviously, he's from here, grew up here, went to IUPUI. So, it's really cool to see. And, I was happy that he was able to have that moment, come back to Indy. It's home for him. And I know he loves it here.
That's the mayor right there, Mr. Indiana. So, he's a celebrity. But, one thing I want to talk about in specific, that hot hand, catching fire, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to be honest, I've never had it. But 25 points in one quarter, a Pacers regular season record, for a quarter. What's going through your head in that game against Atlanta when you simply just could not miss?
It's crazy because that quarter like went by so fast to me, like in my head. I knew I was scoring. I didn't know I was breaking or tying or breaking a record, whatever it is. I kind of was just hooping, and a lot of those things, there were some plays where I was able to do it myself, but a lot of other plays my teammates were setting it up for me, got me a lot of easy looks. And then obviously once a few go in as a scorer, the net gets or the rim gets 10 times bigger, and you think everything's gonna, start falling. And I'm a player who feels like, I always have confidence in myself. So especially on the offensive end. So I was able to, make a few shots and make a few more, and that's how we got to that. So
that was definitely a fun moment. I was actually out to dinner for my dad's birthday when that happened, and I was just keeping up on social media. I said, good grief, this guy is going insane right now. I said, call the Atlanta Fire Department and get him down there right away, because that was incredible. So we do like to do one thing to close out a lot of our interviews, and that is doing rapid fire questions. So we got 10 rapid fire questions. We'll go back and forth asking them for you, and just answer as quick as you can. There's no like time limit on it or anything like that, but we just want to get to know you a little bit better, and maybe a little bit off the court as well. So you talked about getting something to eat with Ben Mather, and I'm curious, what is your go-to food spot in Indy?
Go-to food spot in Indy? I'd probably say when I went to him as a guy, I'll say Yoke, actually.
Okay.
Breakfast.
Best song or artist that you're bumping right now?
Best artist I'm bumping right now? I'll probably say Destroy Lonely.
All right. Who was your favorite player growing up?
Carmelo Anthony.
Ooh,
Hey.
I got a soft spot for Melo. Always have.
My mom's from Syracuse, so I grew up a big Syracuse fan. Obviously not so much a Syracuse fan anymore, but I grew up a huge Syracuse fan, and ever since then, he was my favorite player.
Mr. Olympics right there. Funniest teammate that you've had?
Funniest teammate I've had? I'd probably say I'd have to give it to James Johnson, or Buddy.
Ooh, I like that.
Nice, keeping it fresh. Coolest arena in the NBA?
Coolest arena? I'll probably say, I'm gonna keep it away from Indiana. I'll probably say probably Golden State's arena's Nwoar.
Oh, okay.
Super
Nice.
Yeah.
Have not made it out there, but I hear great things. Best jersey of all time, in your opinion?
Ooh, best jersey of all time. I don't know. I don't know that one. I don't know that one. I'll say the old school Raptors jersey.
Everybody loves that. Yeah, you can't go wrong there.
What'd you think about Matherin rocking the yellow pinstripe Jermaine O'Neal jersey?
That's hard too. Yeah, for
So
sure.
bring him back next year. That's what you're telling. That's
Yeah,
what you're telling
throwback
everybody.
game. Yeah, that'd be cold. Yeah, for
That,
sure.
I still
right.
got mine. I love that jersey.
Yeah.
All right. Next question for you. Toughest defender that you've ever faced. Let's just keep it NBA, not college, but NBA. Toughest defender you faced.
Probably Drew in practice. I remember being like, dang, I literally didn't know what to do. He guarded. It was like my rookie year. He was guarding me. I was like, obviously, I know a lot more than I do. I know a lot more now than I did then. But
Yeah.
I remember early on, I was like, man, I don't know what to. He was strong. I didn't know what to do.
Everybody always says he's the most underrated player in the NBA, and I feel like we're starting to hear now that he's getting that credit, and I love it.
Yeah.
For my next question, top 3 shooters of all time, in your opinion.
Oh, top 3: Steph, Ray Allen, and Reggie.
Oh, thank God he threw Reggie in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
He's been around the Pacers enough to know to make sure he throws Reggie in there. I appreciate that. All right, let's do this. Your dream starting 5 that you'd love to play with. So you're in the starting 5, but you're picking 4 guys to play with you.
Ooh. I'd probably say Carmelo's in there.
Okay.
I got to. Carmelo, I'd say he's my 3. MJ's my 2. I'll be the 4 just for this lineup. I'll do I'd probably say AI. Maybe AI is my 1.
Okay.
And then for my 5, Shaq.
Okay. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. You could
Not
also
a lot of passing around there, though. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's a I'm a scorer, man. Those will be fun to play. See that?
Yes, I get you.
No, that is. And for our generation, like those are the players that we got to watch. Obviously, caught MJ at the tail end, but the rest of those, between AI and Shaq, you got to love that. My last question, number 1 goal to achieve in the NBA. You already won a ring, so it's all right if you go with one that's just maybe for yourself.
I think for me, my number 1 goal in the NBA is first I want to play 10 plus years, but I want to win a championship in Indiana too. So
that's the answer right there. That's how you win over the whole fan base.
Yeah. So I mean, it's one thing winning one in Milwaukee. I want to win one, in Indy. So that would be
Well, I'm gonna follow up on that. We're done with the rapid fire, but I think that sparks a good question because you saw what it takes to win a championship in Milwaukee. What do the Pacers need to do to get back to that spot where they can be a consistent playoff team with a chance to really push for a title?
I think it needs to. I think, like I said, we're on the right path. We have a young group who can grow together. I think obviously chemistry is a really big part of it. I felt like when I was in Milwaukee, all of us were like, although the team was older, everybody was super close, whether it be dinners all the time, stuff like that. And obviously, I feel like everybody had, trust and faith in each other. And I think that here in Indy, we're getting to that level where, like I said, we can make another huge step. And then at the end of the day, it's just, putting the work on the court. Everybody, when you have faith and trust in each other, you're going to give it your all. Like I said, even with Rick, earlier when we were talking, just little things like that can, go a long way for a team, especially a young one. So.
Hey, it turns out I lied. I do have one more. Now, the draft is right around the corner. I don't know how much you were paying attention to this class, but the Pacers have the 7th overall pick. They got 4 other picks, but say just for 7th, is there a player that comes to mind that you're like, man, if we can get our hands on him and add him to the team, that could go a long way?
It's crazy because I don't know. Obviously, I know like the top 3 guys everybody's talking about, but
Probably ain't getting them.
Yeah, outside of that, I'm not sure. I'm sure the front office is going to make a great pick. And at the end of the day, everybody who gets picked is got to come in, be ready to work, and like I said, help this team take the next step. I know that's what they're looking for, so you can come in and help us take another leap. So hopefully that's what happens in a couple weeks.
Hey, looking forward to it. I got faith. Oh yeah. Well, hey, who knows about that? But we'll leave that to you guys. I'm sure you went through yours. You're a vet now. But hey, Jordan, look, really appreciative, having you on the show, but also as an Indiana Pacer. The front office was right. They wanted you for years. It all worked out. You're playing your best ball. We just saw it. The best ball is right in front of you. But please tell everybody where they could find you on social media.
Everything for me on social media is just my name, Jordan Nwora, at Jordan Nwora. Not a lot of people with that last name, so I was able to get a good username for all my accounts. So I'm like,
keeping it simple. I like it. Hey, Jordan, best of luck this season, and hey, we look forward to what's yet to come.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Setting the pace, going to the top. Setting the pace, going to the top. This is your number one podcast. Sweeping every team. We gon' need a mop. Smooth.
Baby.